Hello there, you're watching Al 24 Midnight News, coming to you live from Algiers. And to the headlines. As China played the major role of mediation, Iran and Saudi Arabia have agreed to restore ties and reopen embassies after 7 years of diplomatic deadlock. Xi Jinping was re-elected for a third term as Chinese president on Friday, becoming the most powerful leader in generations, and the Algerian president, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, congratulated him for this new term. In Palestine, another 2 Palestinians were killed yesterday in the city of Qalqilia in the northern occupied West Bank by the Zionist fire. And in Europe, representative of the Catalan Spanish Parliament voted on a resolution calling on Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez to work with framework of international community toward Western Sahara just cause. Hello again and welcome. I'm your host Abdurrahim Kashur, and those were today's top stories. First, as announced by China, Saudi Arabia, Iran on Friday, they have reached a deal that includes an agreement to resume diplomatic relations and reopen embassies and missions within 2 months after 7 years of political deadlock.
A trilateral joint statement was issued on Friday between Iran and Saudi Arabia, agreeing to re-establish relations after years of hostility, which had threatened stability in the Gulf and helped fuel conflicts in the Middle East. The deal was announced after 4 days of previously undisclosed talks in Beijing between top security officials from the 2 Middle East powers.
This is a victory for dialogue, a victory for peace, and it brings great good news at a time when the world is witnessing a lot of turmoil. As a good faith and reliable mediator, China faithfully fulfilled its duty as the host country for the talks. The world now is not limited only to the Ukraine issue.
Iranian state media posted images and video of Iran's Secretary of the Supreme National Security Council with Saudi National Security Advisor and China's most senior diplomat.
At the end of the talks, we reached a conclusion to start a new chapter after 7 years of breaking off relations between the Islamic Republic of Iran and Saudi Arabia, while considering the matters of 2 countries and the security and future of the region, to prevent meddling from extra-regional and Western states and consistent meddling of the Zionist regime in the region.
The Saudi press agency confirmed the agreement by publishing the joint statement from Saudi Arabia and Iran, in which the 2 countries had agreed to respect state sovereignty and not interfere in each other's internal affairs.
The kingdom's leadership welcomes the Chinese president initiative to develop relations between the kingdom and Iran. This comes in line with the kingdom's firm and continuous approach since establishment in adhering to the principles of good neighborliness and take everything that would enhance security and stability in the region and the world.
Friday's agreement was welcomed by several nations in the world. The communiqué mentioned that the agreement is also set to reactivate a 2001 Security Cooperation Accord, as well as another earlier pact on trade, economy and investment. This major diplomatic breakthrough, negotiated with China, lowers the chance of armed conflict between the nations, both directly and in proxy conflicts around the region.
Still with China, in a big ceremony, China's capital, Beijing, Xi Jinping secured the 3rd term as president of China on Friday during a parliamentary session. Nearly 3,000 members of China's parliament, the National People's Congress, voted unanimously for Xi, who will be the president of China for the next 5 years. Nabil Khazini.
It was a ceremony that was all made for one man, the strongest in China. But it might have been expected. With no votes missing, Xi Jinping secured a historic 3rd term as China's head of state. Xi was also unanimously named commander of the 2 million member People's Liberation Army. With steady steps, he took to the stage to pledge allegiance to the Constitution and to promise to be a man of duty.
我宣誓
I pledge to be allegiant to the Constitution of the People's Republic of China, safeguard the Constitution's authority, fulfill my legal obligations, be loyal to the country and the people, be committed and honest in my duty, accept the people's supervision and work for the great modern socialist country that is prosperous, strong, democratic, culturally advanced, harmonious and beautiful. I, Xi Jinping, take this oath.
But now Mr. Xi will have to face the daunting challenges in his third term. After 3 years of stringent COVID-19 restrictions, a steady continuation of the economic growth remains important for China. Other challenges also lie beyond China's borders. Xi will have to deal with the escalating tensions with the US. For the moment, it is only a war of words. However, the two countries are heading down a path that could one day lead to the once unthinkable, the possibility of open conflict that both sides try to avoid. For President Xi, his third term is a new era, an era to pursue what he sees as his nation's rightful standing as a great power.
And on this matter, the Algerian President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, congratulates his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping on his re-election as President of People's Republic of China. In a message, the President also paid tribute to the deep historical friendship, solidarity and cooperation between Algeria and China. With the presidential matters still, the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan officially set Turkey's parliamentary and presidential elections for May 14th, signing the decision in a ceremony shown live on television on Friday. Erdogan set the clock ticking for the biggest test of his 20-year rule that will decide not only who leads Turkey but how it is governed, where its economy is headed and what role it may play to ease conflict in Ukraine and the Middle East.
I have signed the decision to renew the presidential and parliamentary elections, which were planned to take place on June 18, 2023, on May 14, with the authority given by Article 116 of our Constitution.
Now, in the Middle East, 2 Palestinians were killed in the city of Kalkilia in the northern occupied West Bank. According to the Palestinian Health Ministry, Zionist settlers on Friday morning shot and killed a Palestinian young man. Another Palestinian boy, also identified as Amir Ma'moun Waddah, 60 years old, was shot in the chest and killed by the occupation army during confrontation in the city of Kalkilia. Representatives of the Catalan Spanish Parliament voted on the resolution calling on the government of Pedro Sanchez to assume its historical responsibilities towards the Sahrawi people and demanded that it work within the framework of the international community to expedite the organization of the referendum on self-determination of the Sahrawi people and to condemn the gross and systematic violations of the Moroccan occupation state in the occupied Sahrawi territories.
The change of position of the Spanish government on the Western Sahara conflict, which it announced last March, and it's saying that it supports the autonomy plan proposed by Morocco, led to the end of the consensus. that had been preserved, and also created divisions within the government itself, violating all kinds of rights, a fact that has been denounced by several international reports, as has happened in the European Parliament in recent weeks. It is urgent that international powers adhere to the principles agreed upon in the peace plan to end nearly 50 years of occupation and exile.
According to media reports, an investigative committee in the French National Assembly will interrogate the presenter of the French channel, the BFM TV, Rachid Moubaraki, and its general director, Marc-Olivier Fougiel, on suspicions of implementing the dictates of foreign parties that affected the work of the channel. This came after the dismissal of the Moroccan journalist last February, following the broadcast of false and misleading news reports biased toward Morocco on the issue of occupied Western Sahara. Fuel deliveries were blocked from French refineries on Friday as workers continued rolling strikes against pension reform, but President Emmanuel Macron refused to meet with unions and said that reform must go ahead. As debate about the reform continued in the Senate, works blocked fuel deliveries from leaving Total Energies and Esso refineries on Friday.
We must continue this mobilization. We must continue to express ourselves because the ball is in the court of the President of the Republic, Emmanuel Macron. Things like that cannot take place in the country, while the one who is there to gather all the French people says nothing, hides in his lair of the Élysée without taking into account the movement, the discontent, their opinion polls. That too counts.
The British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and French President Emmanuel Macron agreed on Friday to step up efforts to tackle Channel migrants' crossings, as well as improve military ties and further help Ukraine in an attempt to mend relations following post-Brexit tensions. Mr. Macron said during a press conference that France and Britain need a fresh start in their relationship.
Our geography. My wish, definitely, because it makes sense with our history, our geography, our DNA, I would say, is to have the best possible relation and the closest alliance.
Within weeks of my coming into office, we agreed our largest ever small boats deal. And today we've taken our cooperation to an unprecedented level to tackle this shared challenge. We're announcing a new detention centre in northern France, a new command centre, bringing our enforcement teams together in one place for the first time.
Still in Europe, Russia on Friday described mass protests in Georgia this week that forced the government to drop a bill on designated non-governmental organizations as foreign agents as an attempted Western coup. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said that the demonstrations were orchestrated from outside, comparing them to the revolution in Ukraine in 2014. He stressed that the aim was to change the regime by force.
Protest in Tbilisi over foreign agent bill resembles very much the Kiev's Maidan. There is no doubt at all that the bill on registration of those NGOs which receive foreign financing in amount of mere 20% of their budget served only as a pretext to start, generally speaking, in an attempt violently changing the power.
Russian Defense Ministry of Defense launched a series of strikes targeting military infrastructure centers in Ukrainian cities in retaliation for the brain sack operation. Ukrainian forces responded with more than 100 attacks on various axes, resulting in target attacks by Russian forces in weeks. Hossein Burkan.
From Kharkiv in the east to Lviv in the west, and down to Kherson and Odessa in the south, more than 80 long-range missiles and drones targeted Ukrainian infrastructure facilities. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky condemned the attacks, stating that they resulted in temporary outages of electricity heat and water in some regions and cities.
Another attempt to wage war on civilization has resulted in temporary outages of electricity, heat and water in some of our regions and cities. As a result of this strike, the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant was again disconnected from the power grid. This simply means that Russia cannot participate with good faith in anything related to nuclear field.
The Ukrainian General Staff carried out 13 raids targeting Russian forces' concentration sites and repelled over 100 attacks in Bakhmut in the past 24 hours. Spokesperson for the Russian Defense Ministry stated that the Russian armed forces conducted a massive retaliatory strike, hitting military infrastructure centers, enterprises of military industrial complexes, and energy facilities.
The Russian armed forces conducted a massive retaliatory strike. It hit the main center of the military infrastructure of Ukraine and the enterprises of the military industrial complexes, as well as energy facilities. The goal was achieved by destroying the attack bases with drones, disrupting the transfer of reserves and rail transportation of foreign weapons, production facilities for military equipment, and disrupting the production of ammunition.
Observers suggest that the escalation of Russian attacks indicates the time of resolving the war is approaching, but Ukrainian steadfastness may lead to other scenarios, with Bakhmut as the starting point, whether it falls into the hands of the Russians or the Ukrainians desperately defend the strategic city.
Police in Germany said that 8 people were killed in a shooting in Jehovah's Witnesses Hall in German city of Hamburg. Police said that earlier that they believed there was only a shooter and the motive is yet to be identified. The incident was described by the Chancellor Olaf Scholz as a brutal act of violence.
Wir sind fassungslos angesichts dieser Gewalt.
We are stunned by this violence. My thoughts are with the victims and their families in these difficult hours. We mourn for those who were so brutally torn from life. I would like to thank the security forces and chaplains who have been on duty since last night to care for the seriously injured, to secure the crime scene and to solve the crime.
Rescue ship Life Support on Friday docked in Italy with 105 migrants rescued at sea amid a dramatic increase in sea arrivals to Italy and a recent deadly shipwreck. The migrants, 59 men, 16 women, 24 unaccompanied minors and 6 accompanied minors under the age of 10, were saved by the ship run by the Italian medical charity Emergency and different rescue operations on Tuesday night. It is worth noting that Italy's rightist government responded Thursday with a tougher jail penalties for migrant smugglers and pledges to stop their illegal boat trips while opening up legal migration channels. Now coming to the African continent, Mali's government said on Friday it would delay a constitutional referendum that had been set to take place this month. The authorities on Friday said that the referendum would be lightly delayed. In a statement, they said they needed more time to get the Electoral Management Authority up and running in all the country's 19 administrative regions. Now, in the sport news bulletin, the Algerian club GSK, recently owned by the ATM mobile operator Mobilis, take on Congolese club AS Vita Club in the 4th round in Group A of the CAF Champions League today's evening, with both qualification places for the knockout phase still very much up for grabs. Moroccan champions Wydad Club currently top the standings with 6 points, 2 ahead of Petro de Luanda of Angola and GSK, with Vita Club on the 4th place. The pair recently met in Brazzaville on 25th of February, where the Congolese club secured their first win, and GSK this time is receiving the opponent to take back the 3 points.
Premier quart d'heure,
We will try to prepare for this game in the best way, especially on the offensive level, where in the first game we did not succeed on the level of efficiency. Frankly, we had a lot of chances to score, especially in the first 15 minutes, but we did not take advantage of it. We know about this club, Vita, even if we are expecting a different starting 11, because the squad of Vita Club is composed of about 35 players. We have prepared well, as I say every time. We try to put forward the most beautiful image of the club and entertain all those who love our club.
We're not the most favorite team against GSK. We have seen GSK before and we've played against them at home. In the first game, the stadium was not good, but here we are discovering a nice pitch. And the weather is favorable for us too, because the cool weather is for everyone. We know the strengths and weaknesses of GSK. We know it. We've analyzed the first game, so I think that we have the possibility to win this game.
Algeria ranked first in the world with the traditional famous type of Algerian desserts, makrot al-louz, topping a list of 50 other best types of sweets around the world, with a score of 4.6 points out of 5 points according to the Taste Atlas website, a website specialized in the art of cooking. Makrot al-louz has been added to the series of Algerian dishes that have previously achieved leadership in previous ranking of this specialist in traditional cuisine. Taste Atlas placed the Algerian misses in the world top 100 of the best desserts. And with this traditional food, we come to an end for our news bulletin. Thank you ever so much for being with us. Wish you a very good week. And now all I can say, good night.